On Friday, I sat down with former President Bill Clinton at his Presidential Library and Museum in Little Rock, which is celebrating its 20th anniversary. We discussed his new book, Citizen, written after his life after the White House, and the increasingly polarized state of American politics.
We're living in a time when we are both deeply and yet fairly closely divided. Now, President Trump this year won a fairly healthy electoral victory for a simple reason. A lot of voters who thought Trump was economically successful before COVID hit, and they got that check from him in the mail that he signed, where more Democrats than Republicans voted for the bill, but he said, I'll sign it if I can send a check out. He knew what he was doing. And Harris had an almost impossible job because she became a candidate at a time when no one else could legally access the money that had already been given to Joe Biden, and there was no time to have primaries. So she was, in effect,
that wasn't an accident. It was no time to have a primary, and she couldn't access the money legally, or I'm sorry, no one else could access the money legally except her. She had no problem with money. Money wasn't the issue. The issue was her. Everybody acts like we had the perfect candidate and every other condition was wrong. We had the wrong candidate. She was a poor candidate. She was a poor candidate in 2019, and you guys brought her back in 2024 as if we didn't get it. Like, oh, you guys didn't get it. We're going to bring her back, and this time you're going to get it. We didn't get it the second time either. And Trump only lost to won, but if he had lost, it would have been to himself. This country is damn near evenly divided on that guy. And no matter who runs against him, his support is staunch. 50, 52, 53, depending on who he's running against. But he's going to be right there. He can get 46% of the electorate. Somebody else might get 49 or 51. But he got that kind of a following. And Bill Clinton's trying to diminish it and make it look like if he mailed out checks and people are stupid and just said, oh, yeah, we'll take the checks and vote for you. It's a little more than that.
Stranger to people. People knew what they liked about Trump and what they didn't. And about 54% of them would have happily voted for somebody else. But
anybody else, not somebody else. They'd have voted for anybody else. I really believe that the Democrats made a terrible mistake if Joe Biden was so mentally declined that he really couldn't run, to go ahead and make the move and replace him, because it would have taken a decent Democrat, someone who would have beaten Kamala Harris in the primary, and they would have beat Trump. Trump would not have won, but you guys put all your eggs in Kamala's basket.
People didn't feel that they knew about Harris.
And we're still a 50-50 nation. I know the day after, Democrats were in shock. But the further you get out, you go, wait a second. She lost Wisconsin by less than 1% of a vote, 1% of the vote. Michigan about 1.2%, 1.3%. The same with Pennsylvania, a little bit more. And yet Democratic senators won in those states. A progressive Democratic senator won in Arizona. I mean, we still are such a closely divided nation politically.
And we're not. We're not a closely divided nation. We're a closely united nation. The things that hurt some people the most, the higher ups in this country are okay with. The racism that occurs in this country, the denigration of poor people, all that stuff that goes on in this country is acceptable to rich, white, powerful people. And it's acceptable to people who kiss their boots, because that's the only way you can thrive in this democracy, is to kiss the boots of prejudice and racist white people. Look at Bill Clinton. Look at Bill Clinton's career. Everybody from Arkansas who knew him then, who claims that Bill Clinton ain't racist, but he was willing to spend political capital in getting that crime bill through with Biden and all his cronies because there was a benefit. You were going to pick up more white voters by locking black people up than you were going to pick up black voters by not locking them up. There were other alternatives. That was the one that the white people in the United States of America were more comfortable with, locking up black people. And Bill Clinton was behind that, and he had to work with Republicans and agree with Republicans and move from that position in the left he was in toward the center, as they say. It was worth it to lock up black people and give them very, 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 very serious consequences and long prison sentences for breaking laws that other people were breaking, and they weren't getting that kind of time for it. It was totally racist, totally racist. And Bill Clinton was behind that. So we know Bill Clinton is racist. Find a Democratic president who has not had racist, but because the system is racist. And it is not evenly divided, it's evenly united. Democrats and Republicans aren't that far apart. It's really as if we have one government. We just switch the I guess change lanes every 4 years, unless somebody's, doing okay, and then we stay in that lane. But we are not making left and right turns. We're changing lanes.
Aren't we?
I think that a lot of it is the information system, and I think that's why I think we should all be talking to each other and not playing demographic games.
I want to read from something that you wrote in the book about the 2016 election. This whole thing is hard for me to write. I couldn't sleep for 2 years after the election. I was so angry. I wasn't fit to be around. I apologize to all those who endured my outbursts, rage, which lasted for years, and bothered or bored people who thought it was pointless to rehash things that couldn't be changed. In this chapter, I've tried to calmly write about the darkest election possible in the United States because it's important to understand what happened.
It's easier for us to know what happened in 2016 in some ways than it is what happened in 2024 in terms of all the, because
there's no way in his right damn mind he could call 2016 the darkest election in American history. That's some bullshit. He thinks his wife losing to Donald Trump was darker than some of the other elections we've had in this country for way, way bigger stuff. A woman did not win. A woman didn't become our first president when his wife lost. But what was so special about Hillary Clinton? What made her so special where she was the difference of all the other women who have potentially been good enough to go for that office, but she got that opportunity, and it's the darkest day in wow, Bill Clinton is a motherfucker, I tell you.
in 2016, you had two highly unusual things. First of all, the mainstream media told the American people repeatedly that the biggest issue was Hillary's emails. That's what they said, not just Fox. When in fact, even the Trump State Department said she neither sent nor received a single solitary email on her personal device marked classified, one. And two, she followed the rules as they then existed. The rules were changed after she left office.
Hillary Clinton didn't lose to Donald Trump because of the emails. They can blame it on a whole lot of shit, but Kamala Harris didn't lose because she's a woman. Donald Trump is a white man in the United States. It takes another white man in America to beat him in this political system. This system isn't set up for what they keep trying to do. And they're getting it done with white men. They just want a different face on it so the country have a softer look to it. If you could get a black man who would play ball with them the way they need one to, and be able to be elected by the population of the country, they'd do it. But they did it with Obama, and they cannot find a Republican one. That ain't happening because it's going to be a problem with him getting elected. They trust him. They know they'll get in there, ain't going to mess nothing up like they did Obama. But what do we get for that? We get fooled and tricked into voting for these people who we think like us, who we think look like us, who we think act like us, who we think are us. And if we don't know who we are, then we're so confused that we cannot be making right choices. How can our choices be making much sense if we don't know who the hell we are and we over here debating whether Kamala Harris is black or not? That's a non fucking issue. We should know whether she's black or not, and not because of how she talk and how she walk or who she dated or any of that shit. Because we as African American black people, blacks, descendants of whatever, we ought to know who we are if nobody else do. We don't need Bill Clinton to tell us. We don't need Biden. We don't need Kamala Harris to come in and be some kind of representative for black people. We okay. We good in that respect. We need somebody who's going to find a way to get through to these white people that we need to stop faking and shaking and really do some things that's going to erase the wealth gap. That's going to, you guys want to use symbolism and put people in places so it look like, oh my God, the United States has had a white woman. Oh my God, the United States has had a black woman. No, none of that means anything because it's all still white male idealism. There, all the thoughts, all the center of everything on both sides is coming from white men. So you guys win no matter who wins. You guys win and always have. You guys have not lost an election. And Obama, we put in the white man category. And for very good reason.
And yet the whole story was written as if she had done something hideous. And then James Comey made it worse.
In his July press conference where he came out, said she wasn't indicted, but for the first time decided he was going to pontificate about what he thought.
And he said she was careless, and I told the story in the book about how when President Obama called to tell me that bin Laden had been killed in this successful raid, he said, we did it. And I said, did what? He said, we got bin Laden. Hillary didn't tell you? And I laughed. I said, now, Mr. President, you told your people not to tell anybody, didn't you? He said, yeah, but I said, she didn't tell anybody.
Right. That's some bullshit. He just probably talked to Bill Clinton first, or either that's just a goddamn lie. You got to tell me he's a former sitting president and his wife is a Secretary of State, and they going to kill bin Laden, and this guy's going to tell her don't tell nobody. And she took it like literally nobody. That is one of those things so you can think that she's just a saint. She ain't no goddamn saint. And she ain't keeping secrets like that. That's some bullshit. Like I said, Obama either called him first or Bill Clinton's lying. That's a goddamn lie. That don't even sound true.
I mean, Hillary's a sort of down the line person, you know. So it was ludicrous the extent to which people went to essentially fabricate a smear on her and I think they did it because they thought they had to mention something bad about her if they said something bad about Trump.
We saw the same thing not so long ago of the Hunter Biden pardon. You look at the first 5, 6, 7 stories on the New York Times site, it's all about that. First 5, 6, 7 on the Washington Post site, all about that. On the same day that a man is picked to be the next FBI director who said he had a list of enemies over 60 long and he was going to throw reporters, journalists, editors in jail.
It is true that it is highly unlikely, I think, that anyone who was where Hunter Biden was would have been facing a substantial jail sentence for something he did when he was under the influence of drugs and when he has paid back and paid his fines for all the taxes he owed. Whatever you...
So he was high and under the influence of shit. So that's why he broke the law, like a lot of people do. They still get to go to prison, though. They don't excuse your prison sentence because you was high and full of drugs. And most people aren't paid up on their fines, restitution, or any other financial obligations they have to the court or to whoever the hell they owe it to because they don't have the money. They're usually burdened with something that they can't afford. Hunter Biden has benefited from being a Biden. It has not hurt him, and it still isn't. He's benefiting, and this guy is sitting up here trying to justify the president's kid being high on crack and breaking the law. And if he wasn't his son, it wouldn't have even been picked on. Well, it wouldn't have happened.
Think about that. It pales in comparison with a deliberate use of the criminal justice system to punish your political enemies. This whole thing has been thrown off for several years now because of the dominance of what I call Roy Cohn politics. Roy Cohn was Senator Joe McCarthy's main advisor. Then he came back and he was Donald Trump's father's main political advisor, and then President Trump. And Roy Cohn said, no matter what happens, always deny everything, always attack, and always accuse other people of doing what you're doing.
Which is not much different than what everybody else in political office do. They don't admit shit. Do you ever hear them get up there and just have a fucking moment when they open up to us and tell us all the shit that they did wrong, whether it's intentional or by accident? No, hell no, they don't do that shit. And this man is sitting here saying that Roy Cohn, deny. He's not the originator of that shit. That shit has been going on in politics forever. They don't apologize. They don't admit mistakes. They do fucked up shit. And then the next president that comes in don't correct it. And speaking of that, I think that Ronald Reagan in my lifetime was one of the worst presidents that we had. And I hear Democrats speak highly of him. Obama spoke highly of him. And when people do that, I question them. I'm like, what the fuck? Ronald Reagan fucked the ghettos up. He took programs out that we had. We used to have summer youth development jobs that we could do in California. I don't know where else. And if he fucked that shit up in California, I couldn't even imagine living in a southern state or somewhere else. We had jobs that we would go and do, and to keep us out of trouble and to keep a little money in our pocket. And the kids who got those jobs didn't go out and steal hubcaps off of cars. They didn't break in people's houses. They went to bed and slept at night so they can get up and go do their job the next day. It just was something for a poor community that was definitely a positive. Ronald Reagan came in, took that shit out. And the problem that I have with Bill Clinton is when he came in office, he didn't turn it around. He made it worse. By then, the programs had been gone for several years, and we saw the result of it because black kids were selling crack cocaine or using it. Black kids were getting in trouble left and right, breaking the law all over the place. It had nothing to do. It is not only because he took away those summer youth employment programs, but it affected a significant amount of us black kids growing up in ghetto, poor areas where we needed that kind of shit. Help our families pay bills. Help our families buy clothes for us. Help our families buy food. Or have money in our pocket to buy a ghetto blaster radio or a new pair of sneakers or whatever, but was because we went to work and earned that money. And Reagan just took that out. And I think that for the government to spend money on the opportunities for black men to work, to have educational opportunities, is way more important than bringing immigrants over here and housing them. That's why I believe we're in the situation we're in now, because no one's invested in us like they are trying to invest in this immigration community. Bill Clinton, no, he's on board with it. The Democrats are on board with it. And some of the Republicans are. The Republicans just want it to go down in a different way. Everybody got their little tweaks. But overall, yeah, Mexican labor is very essential to the United States, and they are not going to deport. And Trump may even have a different feeling underneath and behind the scenes. But what he's saying out loud works for what we all want to hear. It might not be the goddamn truth, but it's what we all want to hear. That shit sound good. But I don't know. Maybe he got a good beat, but the lyrics is fucked up. Who knows? But Donald Trump is onto something. And Bill Clinton is not a dumb guy, but his racism won't allow him to do the right shit. Even post-president. He's not our president anymore, but why won't he just be the best that he could be right now? Because they locked in. It's bigger than what we all see. We all see things in a whole different lens than they do. It's just different. and they know it is.
And pretty soon, the most important people who believe that are your own supporters. And then nobody believes anybody about anything. We need to go back and meet people where they live and talk to them about what they're interested in. I realize that, it's easy to underestimate the intelligence of people when they're focusing on what they care about. But you've got to deal with what people are living with. President Biden will leave office with a record of having more jobs created in his 4 years than in any previous 4-year period in American history.
And I'll bet you if you ask that trivia question on a game show, nobody will get that shit right. Because he is a fucked up president in so many other ways. He may have created more jobs. But you guys must remember, he became president toward the end of COVID, or right at the half. Fuck it, split COVID down the middle. Give Trump half and give Biden another half. But Biden was at the half where we went from the height of the COVID down back to what we call normal life, which is what I'm speaking in today. He's still our goddamn president. And what did he do while he was president of the United States that makes what Bill Clinton says true? That he created more. He didn't create shit. The country went back to work. After a pandemic where everybody's locked up, unemployed, companies are shutting down, businesses are shutting down, jobs are laying off, people are dying. Just in the amount of deaths, that leaves a big old hole in the employment. And if you guys want to give Biden credit for bringing back the job market, because people have to get jobs, people have to go back to work, he was president after a pandemic. So you do the math. Thanks, Bill, for that one, though. You want to try to pile that shit on Biden as a good? He didn't do shit that any other human on the planet should have done. Just sit in that goddamn chair. But he was sitting in that chair nodding off.
No matter how many, if that number were 50 million, it'll be about 16 to 18, somewhere between that. If it were 50 million, it would be nowhere near the number of people who are affected by inflation and food prices. So you have to discuss these things. You can't pretend no business, no marriage, no friendship, no nothing can succeed and thrive if you don't deal with the pink elephant in the room.
Talk about how Democrats maybe could learn from that and maybe stop firing at each other and start working together.
The Democrats do work together. Man, do you guys see how loyal the Congressional Black Caucus is? They're Democrats. They so goddamn loyal, they don't even fuck with other blacks. The Congressional Black Caucus should be any black person, whether they're a Republican, an independent, or a Democrat, and they should all be working together for things that are going to help black people. If you are black and you're a member of Congress or you're a member of the Senate, you should be, the House of Representatives or the Senate. If you're a member of those bodies, you should be in the Congressional Black Caucus if you're black. If you're black, that's it. That's your way in. And no matter what party you're with, you should have something positive that's going to help black people out. Every black person, all hands on deck when it comes to black people. There is no way that you should have a policy or an idea or a fight or a belief as a black person that doesn't benefit black people if you're black and in politics. Why are you there? What is your purpose for being there if you're not there to help your people and to get them better, on better footing? It makes no sense. And I'm not speaking as the Congressional Black Caucus being the standard. I think it should be demolished. I think it should take that shit apart and get rid of it. I think we do better with grassroots, from the street, real from the heart shit. I don't believe the Congressional Black Caucus is something that we need to be supporting. And I think the members of the Congressional Black Caucus, if y'all ever seen them lately, you wouldn't recognize half of these people. And they get up there and use their Congressional Black Caucus and fight for all kind of other shit. They're in international causes and shit. They need to stay focused on why they're there, Because if there were no us, there'd be no them. But they don't even mention us in their interviews. They'll go through a whole interview and not come up with one thing that specifically addresses black people at all in any way. And that needs to be paid attention to, folks. We have to not allow this shit. Who voted these people in? Who is Jasmine Crockett? A good example. She likes to get out there and toot her horn and yell and argue and fight and fuss. And a lot of black people like to hear that old bullshit. It doesn't get us anywhere. It never has and it never will. And if she wants to talk like that, she needs to talk like that outside of government, not inside the government, because she's still not talking about black people. She's making a lot of noise, but she's not talking about black people. She's talking about other shit. It's a distraction. We don't need that.
I don't even believe the real problem is whether you should be more verbally left or center. I think you got to talk like people talk who will make the difference in the outcome of the election.
You mean you got to lie to them? That's what he's saying. They really don't give a fuck. They're never going to change their ways. They're never going to meet you where you really are. They're going to try to talk to you the way you hear. They're going to dance the way you like to see dances done. They're going to do whatever it takes to connect with you for that moment. The moment it takes you to get your ass in that booth and vote. And then after that, they ain't trying to connect with you no more. Do you ever see them trying to reach out and connect and olive branches? And no. Once they get in office, all that shit's over with. So it's a very small thing they're concerned with. And that's just influencing you for a millisecond. And then on to the next one. And we got to be not that damn stupid. For this country to be what it should be, with what we've all contributed, everybody in this country, we ain't on the right path. Everybody ain't benefiting properly. And that's a fact. So we need to get it right where everybody in this country who is putting in is getting out something, and not just immigrants.
You don't have to sell out what you believe in, but you do have to meet people where they live. And you can't get very far avoiding it. Like, you and I have now been friends for years. We've got our political differences and we've got a political history, but I know you and I like you. Now,
and I trust you.
Suppose you and Mika just did a makeover of your living room. Then you asked me to come visit. And I visit, and it is beautiful. Everything about it is beautiful, except in the corner, you've got this beautiful curved couch. But behind the couch, there's a pink elephant.
Yeah.
And now, I could ask you, I said, I guess you're still a Republican, you just turn a little pink? Yeah. Or something, we could do it, we find it. It almost doesn't matter what I say. The one thing I cannot do is to come in, drink your coffee, talk about how beautiful your living room is, and turn around and not mention the pink elephant.
And ignore it. I think a lot of...
I am shocked that Bill Clinton said that, because it's something that I've been saying, just not in that way. How do we keep having these Democratic elections and the pink elephant in the room, black people, aren't being addressed? How come that pink elephant in the room is okay to be ignored or looked over then? It's right there. You need that vote to win. You need that vote, shit, to lose. You need that vote. And you get that vote in high numbers, and it still ain't enough. You still get down on those people who vote in high majorities. So yeah, Bill Clinton, when the pink elephant is in the room and not being addressed, we want to know too, just like what you said. Why is that pink elephant sitting over there? Hey, your living room looks beautiful. You have a wonderful country. But what about those black people over there? Anybody ever think about that? Nope. But he can put it in another way and speak on a way that he feels that pink elephant needs to be addressed. But he ain't talking about black people. He talking about that pink elephant is something else, not us. And that's what I keep saying. Maybe it's two pink elephants in the goddamn room, but there is a pink elephant in the room that nobody seems to address. They just seem to come over and try to get that pink elephant to vote for them.
Democrats, a lot of people like me, independents, I was focused. on Donald Trump's political rhetoric, his violent political rhetoric.
That's another one. I'm sorry. I can't let him say that shit. Donald Trump, it encouraged the motherfuckers to run down to the Capitol and jump through the windows and all that shit. And then they trying to make it sound like they just took a walk through the Capitol like tourists. It's tickets and shit. You can go in the Capitol. You ain't busting windows and you ain't forcing your way through doors that are closed off. That was not a walk through the Capitol. And I don't know if it was an insurrection, but it wasn't no goddamn walk through the Capitol. And it's the kind of thing that shouldn't be happening in this country. But just as responsible as he is for that bullshit that he did, Kamala Harris and her crew is as equal for him getting shot at and attempted assassination, because they were basically telling people of the country that they're about to lose their democracy. You are about to lose your democracy. Anybody who's looking into this camera and believes that is going to go and try to do something to not lose their democracy. And Kamala Harris is telling people that Donald Trump is going to take us to Project 2025 and you're going to lose all your rights and martial law and government workers are going to be fired in masses. It was just all kind of reasons to believe that our lives as we know them was going to go away, diminish, not exist anymore. And then when someone took a shot at, I looked at, she is exactly in the same seat Trump was in when he encouraged those people to go down to the Capitol there. I just feel the same kind of violent tone in that rhetoric. And no one else seems to, from the MSNBC side, seems to see that. But that is a great opportunity to show the parallel in that, because she was fucking wrong for that shit. You can't go out there campaigning against your opponent and really telling them, not he's gonna take away this part of a benefit no, he's gonna take away your democracy. This country is about to change as we know it. And that's strong ass rhetoric for just a presidential campaign in a country that has peaceful transitions of power. That's all I'm saying.
Said, it sounded like fascist rhetoric to me. You combine that with January 6th, you combine it with everything else. I kept talking about that every day because for me, that was what mattered the most to me. But the pink elephant over there, that's the cost of groceries. That's the cost of gas. That's the thing they've got to take care of first, right?
Yep. Well, the average.
That's right. And those things that they take care of first will never be black people. But we're in a place right now where we have a little more power than we think we do. We're not aware of the power that we wield. And what we have to do is goddamn start using it. Start making sense out of this shit. The Democrats, we all piled in that boat and voted in overwhelmingly high numbers for Kamala Harris, and she lost. And she lost pretty significantly. She lost. So we didn't have to vote for her. We could have voted for Trump and she still would have lost. That's what I'm trying to say. So what if we had voted for Trump, made his win even bigger, but negotiated along that path with him for something, for some benefits? Because Kamala wasn't willing to do it, and we voted for her. Maybe we should have voted for him and seen if he is willing to do it. Or do we even care to? Are we more wrapped up in the person than we are the benefit? Because I think I'm more worried about the benefit. I don't give a damn who give it to us. As long as we can negotiate a benefit and it be something that everybody hold up their end and we get it. That's it.
Average person believes, whether they voted for President Trump or not the first time, that we survived it. And they give him perhaps too much credit for the fact that in the first 2.5 years or so of his presidency, the first time, the economy got better. I think the facts are that he inherited the end of the Obama era's recovery. Well,
if Obama was doing so goddamn good in his economy and the way the country was being run, you think as close as him and Hillary was, the country would have wanted to roll right back into that and not change parties and idealisms and all that shit. But they didn't. They voted her ass down and voted Trump up. So apparently something with Obama's presidency. I kept hearing a bunch of shit about when Obama was president, about there being divisiveness and shit. I'm thinking to myself, do white people really want to try to brainwash into believing that Barack Obama was really fighting for black people and really taking sides on our behalf to divide? No. If he's dividing the country, that ain't how it was being divided. So if people do believe Obama was a divider, he might have been, but we wasn't on his side. He wasn't doing shit for us. So what the division was, I like to know, because to me, Barack Obama was as normal a Democratic president as we've had in my lifetime. He did nothing special for black people. He took our votes in a high percentage and we got nothing. So I don't look at him as any different than Jimmy Carter. I don't look at him any different than any of the other ones who have run. Do you realize we've had Democratic presidents and enough to have significantly moved us in a direction that we're not going in? But they ain't trying to do it because it will lose them white votes, which means there's something wrong with the country. If you can't help a harmed group without pissing off an unharmed group, then why would that group be pissed off? Because our country doesn't teach us properly. So some of this stuff that you're paying us for, some of these people in 2024 will just be hearing about it for the first time. And they're pissed off like, what? Why didn't I know about this? Because you went to public school in the United States of America. Just how it go.
From 8 million jobs in Obama's last 2 years to 6.5 million in Trump's first 2 years. But there was no inflation and people felt it. So we had to see that election the way they did and answer that and start with that. So when we didn't answer it, it was like we left the pink elephant in the living room. There is a reason why. We're already the longest continuously existing democracy in history. It's hard to save one. That's fine. But if you're going to fight to save it in an election system with all these forces raining down on you, that's the game you got to play. You got to deal with the issues that affect other people's lives. And the same thing's true all around the world. Look at this upheaval is happening. People are losing faith in institutions, and in many, many places, they're going to reward the people that destroyed their faith.
Well, a person can destroy your faith by telling you the truth. A person can destroy your faith by giving you something else to look up to or look over to, as opposed to your faith being destroyed in the Democratic Party. Because I do believe that a lot of Democrats still voted Democrat whose faith has been affected to a point where it'll never be the same again for them. And being forced to vote for Kamala Harris without her really having a track record to vote on, I think was just a bridge too far. I just think they just pushed it out there just a little too far.
I wouldn't bet against America. So far, everybody that's bet against us has lost money. We just got to stay after it.
All right, Mr. President. The book is Citizen. What a great honor. Thank you so much. It's great seeing you again. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah, when these guys sit around and do these little interviews, they're on the same side. They believe in the same kind of shit. This is a beautiful ass country if it was built for you. This is a beautiful ass country if there are benefits and perks and things that you get and qualify for that other people don't. But when you're on the other side, the receiving end of the oppression, it is not a good thing. It's painful as hell. You do the best you can do and you ain't making the same progress as everybody else. This is a wonderful country. Everybody needs to be given a chance to participate. That's all. And anybody who is still caught up in the battle with an election that just happened, and when it's gone, it's done, it's over. Let's move our focus on to Trump. Let's allow him to hear our voices. And if he ain't hearing you how you're giving your voice out there now, you got to find a way. We got to get in some groups. We got to get some motivation going, some education, some thought, so that we can ask for things that don't ask for things that he can do that don't benefit your life. Don't let him sign a check and send that out to you for $1,400 and you feel like he is a good president. A check for $1,400 does not a good president make. We require more than that. All right. And I want you guys to understand that Bill Clinton is racist. Say that after me. Bill Clinton is racist. All of our presidents have been. There's nothing they can do about it. That's just the system that we live in. Will it ever be changed? I don't know. It's going to be looked at as the democracy fail or some shit, because I don't think that anyone else's ideas or beliefs can be incorporated into the system in a way where the system will still be looked at the same. So it will be looked at as probably the democracy is fallen, and they're going to probably rename this new shit that goes forward. But I just don't think we can continue this way. Everybody's way too intelligent, but just way too lazy to get up and go vote. Everybody knows the right from the wrong. I would like to see an election where we could get maybe 75% of the country to vote, of the eligible voters. I mean, could you guys imagine what that would look like? They wouldn't even know where to campaign or how to campaign. There's so many people who don't even, they look at elections, they look at TV, they look at newspapers and articles all day long, but they just don't have the motivation to vote because they don't feel like their vote matters. And it's hard to convince those people otherwise. I used to be one of them, shit. And then I started paying attention, and thank God I was still a young man, and I started to understand that they're all full of shit. Everybody has a driving, motivating force and a factor. And I just wish that, in fairness, when people have access, that when people have excess amounts of anything, that you hoard it or do things to keep it away from others. If you get to enjoy it, so should others. And whether it be wealth, whether it be living status or living locations, whatever it might be, even the type of employment that you're eligible or qualified to get. Everybody deserves that shot, you know? And if you out there making it hard on other people, then you're a part of the problem and not a part of the solution. And we all get that opportunity. We do. And some of us have no power, and we still help the oppressors to oppress. And that's what we need to get away from completely. That has to go. So on that note, folks, like, comment, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one.